athletes. And then after we do that, and I'm going to have Kirk address that, after we do that, I'm also going to do some follow-up to some of our policies and procedures related to drug testing in particular. Starting last week, we started to go back and look at all those protocols. We've been drug testing since 1988, I think. But I'll talk a little bit more about that. Before I do that, though, we did want to just give you an update on the status of some of our student athletes. And I would only say this, as Kirk gives the update on status, as you can imagine, we're not going to be able to go into great detail about every student athlete. And I would just caution all of us to understand that, you know, every situation's unique. And assuming that they're all lumped together is probably not something that, I understand the tendency, but it just, every situation is unique and we've approached it that way. So I'll pass it over to Kirk.
Okay. Big thing I'll do is just comment on the two players that we released yesterday, the update on that. And, you know, basically, in a nutshell, you know, we had a player who's decided to transfer. You know, we've got another player that will not be accompanying the team to the bowl site or practicing this weekend. So he's been suspended basically throughout the next period until we start classes, and it'll be his choice to rejoin the team or not at that point. And one thing I would point to in both players' instances, one player went through a suspension. Jewel had a suspension back first game of the year, dating back to an incident that was public in June. And Adam, as you know, did not start the Ohio State game. And as I said, after that ball game was academically related. So the only comment I would make, you know, a big part of coaching, a big thing that we do is try to shape behaviors and sometimes try to change behaviors. And every student athlete comes from a very different background typically. You know, we've got over 115 players on our roster typically, and you know, it's a wide slice of you know, slice of society when we put a team together. So, you know, players come with all kinds of backgrounds and habits, academically, football-wise, socially, and we certainly have expectations in our program. And basically, it's a process of the player adhering to what we look for and coming our way, or not. And that's a player's choice. Sometimes it's a coach's choice. So, in both of those instances, you know, I think that's really what we're looking at, and you know, it's about it right there. Then shifting back to a week ago, we had an arrest, a player arrested, and certainly that was disappointing news to all of us. And just to tie that in, that was drug related, obviously. And the only thing I'd care to say right now about that, and we'll elaborate later on, you know, I think one of the things, if you do your homework, you know, we've been very, very proactive with drug testing. I think that's one of the things I feel fortunate about coaching at Iowa. I've never had anybody tell me that we don't have a budget to do it. We've been extremely proactive, and I'll share with you this past year we've been as proactive as any time during my 12 years here, for the main reason of all the expectations and all that stuff that started back in January. You know, anything that I felt was necessary to try to keep the players hooked into reality and keep their feet on the ground. You know, that was my aim, obviously. And I felt fortunate. I've always felt fortunate that nobody's ever told me that we can't test. And my rationale for testing is I certainly want to get out ahead of the game. I think anybody that's in coaching anywhere in this country, probably any team, you know, if you're coaching college students, pro athletes, and I'd venture to say high school athletes too, if you don't think drug culture is part of, you know, that student bodies at all, both those levels into the professional ranks, I think you're a little bit naive. So my rationale has been to get out ahead, and you know, my goal is to always find out about a player that might have issues ahead of the game, and that's you know, pretty much our rationale for that. So we've been very, very proactive this year alone. I think we've had 92 athletes, our football athletes, tested this fall, 27 by outside bodies and 65 by in-house procedure. And I venture to say it's probably as high a numbers that you'll find in the country. Again, the rationale is to try to stay out ahead of things. So that being said, I'll turn it back to Gary.
And following up to a week ago when we had a student athlete arrested, obviously that was a great concern. And one of the things you always do when something comes up is you look back